Summer is quickly approaching down here at Disney World, and chances are if you're watching this video, you most likely have a Disney trip coming up for this summer season. Now, whether you've ever visited Disney World or not, visiting Disney World during the summertime is a completely different ballgame compared to the rest of the year. Weather is different, crowd levels are different, but to get you the most prepared for your trip so that way you can make the most of your time, I want to share with you some Disney World summer planning tips that you can start using right now. The first thing I absolutely want to say is to make reservations. Theme park reservations were essential earlier in the year, but they are even more important now considering that certain days are already starting to book up this summer for theme parks. You probably know by now that you need a theme park reservation for the day and the park that you are planning on visiting. And if you don't have a reservation, you can't get into the park. If you know when you are planning on visiting a certain park or when you're coming to Disney World, you're definitely going to want to make these theme park reservations as soon as possible. At the time of this video recording, I've already checked the calendar for June and days are already starting to book up, so definitely get those reservations made. As I said, the weather is completely different during the summer down here, and the second thing you want to do is to prepare for the weather. Now, there's two types of weather here in Florida during the summertime. There's crazy hot Florida and there's crazy rainy Florida. Sometimes both. Now, the one thing that you can almost guarantee the entire time you're visiting during the summertime is that it will be hot and it will rain. You may be checking the weather a couple of days out from your vacation and it may say one thing, but I guarantee you it'll probably change by the time you get down here. The weather here in Florida fluctuates pretty frequently and you never know when a pop-up shower or crazy weather may occur, so you just want to be prepared for almost anything. As far as the Florida heat goes, I recommend finding some ways that will be able to help keep you cool throughout the day. You can bring your own personal portable fan, or you can bring some cooling towels to help cool you off while you're walking around the parks. Another thing that's really nice to prepare for is for the rain, so I do recommend having some type of rain gear with you on hand so that way you can be prepared for when that pop-up shower does occur at Disney World. Because remember, I told you it will at least once during your visit, unless you're super lucky. So with that, you can either bring an umbrella or a rain poncho, and don't forget your strollers, people. Bring a stroller cover. The third thing when planning your trip during the summertime is to review the theme park hours. Like everything at Disney World, theme park hours during the summertime tend to be a little bit different compared to the rest of the year, as in usually the parks are open a lot later. When doing your theme park planning and planning out your days in the parks, definitely take a look at what the theme park hours are so that way you can properly plan when you're planning on getting up in the morning and when you may be leaving the parks. I checked, in certain days in the month of June, Magic Kingdom is open until 11 p.m. Look at the park hours and decide if you're going to stay the whole time, if you're going to get there for rope drop, or how you're going to plan out your day, because checking the hours can help give you a good idea of what you should do during your day. Fourth thing you should plan on doing now is budget time for transportation. Now, whether or not you're staying on Disney property, Disney World transportation is a very convenient and nice thing to take advantage of when on Disney property. This is really great from getting you from your resort to the parks, or if you're planning on park hopping during the day. But during the summertime and peak times at Disney World, lines for Disney World transportation can get quite long. The busiest time you can expect to find at Disney World transportation is in the morning and in the evening. That's mainly because the theme parks are opening and closing. If you're planning on getting to the parks for rope drop, or if you're wanting to take advantage of early entry if you're staying on property, I recommend getting to Disney transportation a half hour before it even opens, so that way you can miss out on the lines. Lines can get quite long in the morning, and the last thing you would want to have is to think that you are all prepared for your day, getting there early enough to get there for rope drop and find that there is a crazy long line for the Skyliner. So just look a little bit into Disney transportation and see how you need to use it. Likewise, at the end of the day when parks are closing, you can expect to find crazy lines for Disney transportation to get you back to your resort. One of the craziest lines you probably will find is the line for the monorail or the ferry boat at Magic Kingdom. Now, if you decide not to go to the parks when they open first thing or right when they're closing, you can expect some shorter lines for the transportation, but that all depends on how you're wanting to go about your day. One thing that you could consider doing if you want to miss out on the long lines in the evening is to actually save some Disney shopping for the evening. With this, what you can do is you can go shopping in the evening. Some of the stores stay open past when the park actually closes. So with that, you can do your Disney shopping and wait for some of the long lines for transportation to die down. Knowing how to use Disney transportation and how to get around Disney property is also helpful if you're planning on park hopping. You want to definitely maximize your time when you have it in the parks, and the last thing you'd want to do is to not know how to get to another park and waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to use use transportation. So if you're planning on park hopping, figure out what means of transportation you need to use ahead of time. Also, last thing about transportation, if you are planning on having a dining reservation somewhere on Disney property, figure out how long it's going to take you to actually get to your reservation so that way you don't miss it. Now, the fifth thing I will say here, if you are planning on prioritizing attractions while you are in the parks, I definitely recommend either taking advantage of early entry or rope drop. Now, we talked about crowds, and what you can definitely expect are longer lines than usual during the summertime for especially popular attractions. One thing that I really like to do though is to get to the parks at rope drop and go to some of the most popular attractions in each of the parks and knock them out early in the day when the wait times are not as long. Like I recommended getting to transportation a half hour early, I recommend trying to budget time to get to the parks about a half hour before they actually open as well. Now, if you are going to be staying on Disney World property, I definitely recommend taking advantage of the early entry that they have for resort guests. You can get into the parks a half hour early compared to other park guests. This will definitely help you to be able to get some of the most popular attractions done because during the day they are going to have a lot longer lines. And then if you're wanting to ride the popular attractions again, you can either choose to ride them during a fireworks show or nighttime show when lines are shorter, or in the evenings when people may be leaving to go back to their resorts. All that to say, if you are planning on trying to knock out a lot of attractions and prioritizing attractions when you're in the parks, the best way to maximize your time is definitely take advantage of rope drop or early entry. But these long lines can definitely get to you throughout the day, and so the sixth thing that I recommend here is to take advantage of some quick wins rides. Now, you're probably wondering what this even is, and what I like to consider quick win attractions are attractions that typically have very low wait times and are less popular attractions in the parks. After standing in long lines all day, sometimes it's really nice to be able to go onto an attraction and get on right away, whether you have to wait a couple of minutes or if it's a walk-on. It's really nice to be able to just get on something really quickly. So especially during the summertime, I recommend taking advantage of some of the less popular attractions, so that way it doesn't seem like you are just waiting in lines all day. The seventh thing I talk about all the time on here is to bring snacks and water. Besides actually having a reservation to get into the park, one of the most important things you'll want to plan for your time during the summertime here at Disney World is definitely hydrating in the amount of water you will be drinking. It is so hot down here. If you aren't used to warm weather, it definitely will catch you by surprise. And I find that whenever I am mindful of the amount of water that I'm drinking throughout the day, I have a significantly better time at Disney World. Dehydration and heat exhaustion can catch up to you quickly, and so definitely have either a water bottle on you or take advantage of the water fountains that you can find all throughout the park. Of course, you can buy bottles of water at Disney World, but I like to bring my own water bottle to save some money, to have a bottle of water on me at all times. But another thing you can do is go up to quick service restaurants and ask for a glass of ice water. Likewise, I always bring snacks with me when I go to Disney World because there's nothing worse than being hangry at Disney World. Again, yes, you can always buy snacks and food at Disney World, but I like having stuff on hand so that way whenever I'm in a ride or walking around and I need a bite to eat, I can reach into my bag and I have something on hand ready to go. The eighth thing that I recommend planning out are planning breaks. There's a lot of reasons why I recommend taking breaks. The weather is a huge factor. The fact that the parks are open a lot later and that you'll need to recharge throughout your day is a lot of the reasons why I recommend taking breaks when at Disney World, especially during the summertime. It is so hot down here in Florida during the summertime. It's nice to just get an AC break and to get out of the sun a little bit so that way you can recharge. Also, if you are planning on doing rope drop and staying till the end of the day when the parks are closing, another thing that you can consider doing is actually going back to your resort for a break. I know a lot of people that will go back for a midday nap and come back feeling recharged. That way they can continue their night at the parks. Or another really nice thing to do is actually plan a sit-down meal during the hottest part of the day down here in Florida. With that, you can make a dining reservation around lunchtime or in the middle of the day whenever it's warmest, so that way you get a break from the sun and an AC break, because you know I love those. Also, depending on how long your trip is going to be down here at Disney World, it may be nice to actually plan break days in between your park days. There's a lot that goes into spending a day at a Disney park, especially if you're like me and try to rush around and see how much you can actually get done. It can be very exhausting and tiring. One thing that might be nice to take advantage of is a break day in between your park days where you can either go to visit Disney Springs or do some park hopping or just have a lazy, relaxing pool day. And the ninth and final thing that you'll want to consider planning when coming down here is what you're gonna pack. Packing and being prepared is a huge part of coming down here to Disney World during the summertime, and there's some recommendations that I have for you when it comes to packing for Disney World. Especially during the summertime, I recommend bringing clothes that are comfortable and breathable. It's going to be very hot down here, and so you're going to want to make sure that you're wearing outfits that are very lightweight, flowy, and whenever you may get wet or sweaty, dry very easily, so that way you can stay comfortable throughout the day. There are a couple of things that I recommend here. I recommend bringing multiple pairs of shoes, multiple pairs of socks, and bringing shoes that you know are comfortable and worn in. I recommend bringing multiple pairs of shoes because if it rains, the last thing you'd want is to only have one pair of shoes and have them be wet for the rest of your vacation. And also it's nice having another pair of shoes to switch out for a different day at the parks to give your feet a different feel. I recommend bringing extra socks as well in case your shoes do get wet, so that way you have enough socks to last you throughout your trip. Oh, and the last thing that's very important to pack is your patience. There will be lines at Disney World, it's going to be warm, frustrations and tensions can definitely rise, but you've made it on your vacation to the most magical place on earth. Definitely be patient and know that you're making the most of the time that you have on your trip. Summer can be a very intimidating time to visit Disney World, but with some planning and preparation, it can help to guarantee that you make the most of your time while you're down here at Disney World. As I mentioned, it's probably going to be very rainy and warm whenever you visit Disney World, so here are 2 videos that can help you to prepare for both rain and the heat. Enjoy your Disney World summer planning and vacation, and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys!